Ukraine will be free. And I'll tell you why I believe you will succeed, dear members of the Rada. When they came to me last year and they said that there was now overwhelming evidence that Putin was planning an invasion, and we could see his battalion tactical groups, well over 100 of them, gathering on the border, I remember a sense of horror, but also of puzzlement, because I'd been to Kiev on previous visits, and I think I'd met some of you, and I'd stood in the Maidan, and I'd seen the tributes to those who had given their lives to protect Ukraine against Russian aggression. And I've wandered the lovely streets of your capital, and I've seen enough about Ukrainian freedom to know that the Kremlin was making a fundamental miscalculation, a terrible mistake. And I told everybody I knew, anybody who would listen, that Ukraine would fight and Ukraine would be right. And yet there were some who believed the Kremlin propaganda, that Russian armor would be like an irresistible force going like a knife through butter and Kiev would fall in days. Do you remember they said that? And people rang Volodymyr and they offered him safe passage out of the country. And he said, no thanks. And they said that this Rada of yours would have to be reformed outside Ukraine, maybe even in Poland or in London perhaps. And I refused to believe it. And today you have proved them completely wrong. Every one of those military experts who said that Ukraine would fall. And your farmers kidnapped Russian tanks with their tractors. Your pensioners stood up in the road and told Russian soldiers to hop it, as we say, or they may have used more colorful language than that. And even in the parts of Ukraine that were temporarily captured, your populations, your indomitable populations, turned out to protest day after day. And though your soldiers were always outnumbered, 3-1 it is now, they fought with the courage and the energy of lions. And you've beaten them back from Kiev. You have exploded the myth of Putin's invincibility. And you've written one of the most glorious chapters in military history and in the life of your country. The so-called irresistible force of Putin's war machine has broken on the immovable object of Ukrainian patriotism and love of country. Your children and your grandchildren will say that Ukrainians taught the world that the brute force of an aggressor counts for nothing against the moral force of a people determined to be free. They will say that Ukrainians proved by their tenacity and sacrifice that guns and tanks cannot suppress a nation fighting for its independence.